Hi, I'm Jack Brewer with Expanding Frontiers Research. We're a Salt Lake City-based nonprofit corporation, tax exempt under Section 501c3 of the United States Internal Revenue Code. We're dedicated to providing the public with reliable information obtained through proven research methods. One of the methods we use is the Freedom of Information Act and public records requests. I'm going to talk a little today about filing an FOIA request and share a specific one with you that we filed, and then we can share with you in real time as we receive responses and conduct correspondence with, in this instance, the FBI about our request. If you have questions about any of the things I discussed today, please reach out and ask. We're eager to help you with your research and enhancing it with use of the Freedom of Information Act. I'll provide a link in the video description to our Patreon page where this will be a free public post with more resources to help you with your work. When deciding to make a FOIA request, one of the first things that I recommend you do is decide what address and personal information you will want to use with an agency. Never put anything in a Freedom of Information Act request or correspondence with government offices that you wouldn't want made public or that is important to you to keep private. It may become subject to public records itself. So that's just something to bear in mind. Now, in our particular circumstance here, we decided to do a Freedom of Information Act request on a gentleman named Jasper Martell Bird. I became aware of the late Mr. Bird when Erica Lukes, the executive director of Expanding Frontiers Research, made me aware of him. Mr. Bird was a 27-year special agent for the FBI. He also was an influential member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So we reasonably thought that there might be some interesting things to learn about Mr. Bird and his career. So in order to do this, the first thing we would need to do is compose our request. And I will share with you here how that looks, and hopefully it will assist you in doing this for yourself as well. I like to start by just declaring that it's a Freedom of Information Act request or Freedom of Information and Privacy Act request. I then, in the first paragraph, the main paragraph, I explain in detail what we're looking for, give the full name of the individual. Now, in the case of Mr. Bird, I reduced the records from all of them cross-referencing or pertaining to a much more limited focus because obviously a man with a long career with the Bureau would have an enormous amount of memos and materials. So I tried to narrow that to give us an idea of directions we might want to go with it. Then one of the requirements of a request with the FBI on a deceased individual is we must inform them of the date and place of birth and the date and place of death. Then we must verify that with something like an obituary. In this case, we were able to locate an obituary, so we included it as an attachment. Then we told them a little more about Mr. Bird, and then in our circumstance here, we requested a fee waiver. That's not necessary to do in all circumstances by any means. What I would recommend further down here is telling them that you would like to be notified of fees prior to filling the request if they go over a certain amount. I choose $25 because it's my understanding that that's the amount that the FBI and their policy is that they don't have to notify someone less than $25. So that's where I got that fee. And then I tell them how I'd like to receive the records, which is electronically. I'd like them in PDF by email. I thank them. And then you can see I use a PO box and a public email address. Now, when you're ready to submit your request, you'll want to go to fbi.gov and find the FOIA portal, which is where you submit your requests. And then when you do that, there will be a series of information to fill out, a series of forms there that you go there, the FBI will ask you for an email address. They'll send you a link to then go through this process with them. And it will look something like this. Here is one of the pages that you'll come to, and you let it know that you want to submit an electronic request. Then when you get your email link and you're ready to start filling out the information, you can see here on the left-hand side, there's a few different sections to fill out. It's not a time-consuming or difficult process. The more you do it, the easier it is, and it's pretty standard stuff. The red asterisks denote required fields, name, email address, that kind of thing. Then one of the sections is where you put the actual body of the request. So here I copy and paste the entire request that I have composed beforehand as we were just looking at. So then you submit that and you will get an electronic verification that it was submitted. Then in relatively short order, usually a few days, you'll receive by either standard mail or an email from the Bureau that is informing you to click on a link with instructions of how to get your request or your response, your initial response to your request will be sent to you. And then with that, you will find something that looks like this. A pretty standard form from the FBI. They will assign you a request number. You'll want to keep this in your records and use it with all future correspondence about the request. And then only the boxes that are checked apply to your request. The boxes that are not checked, you can disregard. And in this circumstance, they acknowledge it's been received and is being processed, which lets you know you filled it out correctly and they have accepted it. Then the second page that has writing, if there was anything they needed to make you aware of that might be unique, they would on this page. This is pretty standard stuff, and there is nothing in particular about this request that needed to be explained any further. So now we are simply waiting for a final response. In the video description, there will be a link to where you can follow along, and we will post public what we find out and what we learn. And you can see, we'll walk you through any future correspondence we have with them. If we have questions about the process, if we file appeals, we'll of course certainly share with you any records we get. Now, also, you can go to our blog, expandingfrontiersresearch.org, and on the menu, find our blog if you're not already familiar with it. And there we share records as well, and you can see the analysis we do of the information that we find and we learn about. Again, feel free to reach out on social media, in the comments section, wherever is most convenient for you. Email me and ask any questions you may have about this process, any comments you may have. Let us help enhance your work through the Freedom of Information Act, and follow along with us and discuss with us these different requests that we're doing. Let's get together on it and see what we find out, what you think's interesting, what we think's interesting, and see where it leads. Thank you for your attention, and I hope to see you in the comments.